Hello.
Hi. We should do a compilation of all the fake laughs that we do.
Okay, let's try this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Recording in progress. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
We do this every time. Welcome to... Wait, isn't it one person supposed to do it?
Welcome to Welcome to the Energy and Heart Podcast with Steph and Jiggy. Let's go.
With Jiggy now with an additional title of DJ. Every week we just keep adding on like Bretman Rock, you know?
Hi guys, it's Bretman Rock, singer, songwriter, actor, actress, athlete, activist, a scientist on the motherfucking side, the star of Crystal of the Day, yeah, and a coconut water connoisseur.
So, Jiggy Yoon, mental health speaker, the youth's big sister, YouTuber, TikToker, DJ, CEO, bad bitch, my best friend, lead facilitator, all the fucking things. Ta-da! And me.
Founder, executive producer, Kato's girlfriend. We can talk about that. How's that going?
My relationship?
Ooh, today is Thursday, some shit. And I swear to God, by the time this podcast comes out, it's gonna be September.
It's gonna be. And today I'm hosting my first live session experience with Kato.
Yay! What is it gonna be about? How did this idea come about? What is the intention?
What was the reason?
I had a reason.
What was the reason? What was the reason?
Wow, that's a good question.
It's really not like we're advertising this because you're gonna see this like
you're gonna see this like way later. Happened. So I think by that time we'll probably have done like a second one.
Hopefully you can join for the third one.
Yes. So Kato and I think like a couple weeks ago, we were texting and then he was like, hey, like, what do you think of like this idea? Like maybe we can talk about our relationship, share how we've like maneuvered our experience together, and share with everyone. And I was like, that sounds great. Like, let's do it. Because we have, like, debated, like, doing... Like, we've attempted on multiple occasions, like, to record, like, podcasts before. But I think we just both really enjoy the energy of, like, a group. I think it works easier for us. And we're like, oh, I think that's a better medium for us to, like, express ourselves. But, yeah, the intention of the series, which is called A Relationship With, is really to just, like, normalize the behind the scenes work of like building a lasting relationship. And it really just stems from like for me at least, like I feel like at 22 23 when I started like the self work and like you know, taking care of myself, like mental health and like being in a relationship, I was like searching for like role models or like people that I could really like trust with the process. Because you have people out here saying like, oh, you gotta play the texting game and like that's how you like find love, or like there's some weird ass like methods out there about like finding the person that you're supposed to be with, or like finding love. Like I don't even say it's the person you have to be with, but just like being in love with people and like friends and I guess like being on your journey of finding a partner. And so this is just like for me just like something I needed when I was younger. And so what I'm really hoping is that we can, I think it's a cool concept, like create a community, a place that people feel safe enough to like discuss some of these harder things and feel like they can feel supported by other people. Because I was thinking about like how there's, you know, we have a group of people coming and some of them are like single people that I think are just trying to search for like what's out there, right? And then there's like couples who are also coming as well. So I think it's a really interesting like mix of people. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, I wonder what's gonna like happen in this space. I think it's gonna be really fun and like really juicy. So
are you guys teaching something, or are you sharing stories or like sharing some of the celebrations and struggles that you're going through?
Every session we have a specific like topic. that we've like grappled with. So like the first one that we're talking about today is like romantic versus like platonic like love, and is there really a difference?
What
right?
does platonic
like,
mean?
It's like friendship, like not romantic. Like we've talked about this too, like within our like friend group, you know. And so like I think it's a very like interesting topic, but like I think there's just so much misconceptions about what love is supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like oh, you're supposed to fall head over heels. It's just like we're trying to like make it more realistic, you know, like where does it really stem from, like realizing that it's like it takes a lot of work, you know, it's not something that you just like feel forever, although we all love and I think that's part of it. But yeah, so like every week we're just, or not every week, every session, which is going to be monthly, like it's just exploring like a different part of like love, I guess, as a topic, but also our relationship to certain things. So not just me and Kato's relationship with each other, but for people who are coming, like what's your relationship with money? How does that affect the relationship? What's your relationship with your mental health? How does that affect the relationship, right? So it's like your relationship with the person that you love, and also your relationship with other things that deeply impact the way that you show up in your relationship. So that's why it's called a relationship with.
Come on. I feel like we could talk about relationships today.
I'm down.
We're already in there, and I'm just like really leaning into it.
Yeah.
Get in there.
What's coming up for you?
This concept of the patterns of who we date. So not just talking about dating, but the patterns of the people that we date. And coming to the awareness of, I'm not talking about just like types, like being like types as an attraction, like what we find attractive, versus the like what kind of person are they, and the consistency that we might see in the characters of these people. That came up for me because like as you're talking about doing this with Kato, we talk about Kato as if like they know who Kato is, but Kato, well, context is that they've been best friends forever and now they're dating. But what came up is like you had partners beforehand, and then now there's Kato, and I think I'm pretty confident in being able to say like I think that Kato is like a very different kind of guy compared to everyone else you may have dated or just have explored in the past. And just like whatever the cycle may have been, it was broken, and then now here's Kato. And then with me, I recently learned about a term called repetition compulsion. And the term is a psychology term that comes from like trauma basically, and how the brain functions in repetitiveness. And I'm saying that to say that it's not our fault when we find ourselves in the same kind of situations again. It's not like our fault or that person's fault that they are the way that they are, and I keep attracting these kind of people. It's not anybody's fault. It's just that how like whatever happened in the past for me, my brain sort of like started to function in a way where it's like, this is what I need in a partner. Therefore, like I keep getting into relationships where there's a lot of codependency. There's a lot of the other person like needs me, and then I love to be needed because I'm a helper, and then that's my repetition compulsion. And then if we go back to the reason why, is because of probably I have mommy issues, and that's probably why. I don't know if I'm using the term correctly, because the term I think comes from trauma. But at the same time, the example that they used in the podcast that I listened to where I learned about this term, they used abusive relationships as an example. And then they said that, you know, oftentimes when people get into repetitive, like, they're different relationships, but the consistent theme is that it's abusive. And so a person can be really hard on themselves and say, man, like, what's wrong with me? I've been in 7 different abusive relationships. And then the psychologist said, it's not that you've been in 7 different relationships where it's your fault that you keep getting into these kind of relationships. It's that you've been in the one same cycle that repeated 7 times. And so it's not like you have to explore every single relationship, because that's exhausting. You can just get down to the one root cause of why there's that repetition. Again, like I don't know if you see repetition when it comes to the kind of guys that you've been with, and then now how different it is. Like, how supported do you feel? How celebrated do you feel? Is it like a relief that you finally have a partner who's very, you know, communicative? I'm not saying that he's perfect, but I am saying that at least the homie wants to talk. You know, and I think that's a great step forward.
We love people who want to talk
And
communicate.
So I don't know, that's what came up for me. How's that landing? Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I 100% there's some similarities in past relationships. Like, I think the biggest one being like it's like really interesting to like now be in a place where you can observe, right? Because like when you're in it, you're just like in it. Like you're honestly like when you're in the trenches, it's really hard to like look at it from a objective like point of view, right? There's so many things you want to consider. Like it's like, how long have I been in this relationship? Like I like they've tried so hard, I've tried so hard. There's like so many things, but like I think now being away from like my past relationship for like over a year, being away from other previous ones for a long time, like I look at it and I think something that's like been hugely consistent for me is like they remind me of certain patterns of my dad. And that's where it gets really
love
freaky.
psychology.
Like that's where it gets freaky, right? Because you're just like, wait a
love
second,
psychology.
like I would never be like my parents. I would never be attracted to like something like my parents. And I'm looking at them, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, oh Lord, like the similarities are uncanny. But I think the biggest one is, you know, with my dad, I didn't feel as much, you know, emotional support, right? And that's like most of my experiences with past dudes, like it's not that they didn't try, but a lot of the times it didn't land, right? And I think for me, like I need a lot of that emotional support because of what I didn't have. So like, you know, growing up, you're just like, imagine you're in a desert and you don't have water, you're freaking starved, you know? And so, or like you're freaking thirsty. So you're really like every drop, you're just like holding on to it. And that's like what I tended to do. Like every drop, I was like, okay, I'll just hold on to that, just that one moment, and let that be the reason that I continue being in a relationship that actually wasn't like abundant in the way that I wanted it to be, or that I like needed it to be, right? So I would hold on to these like small moments, and I'm just like, wait, you know what? Like at some point you look at it and you're just like, wait a second, like I kind of, you realize like what you actually need. And so for me it was just like, I need words of affirmation. Like I don't care if you give me anything else, like if you support me financially, if you support me all these other ways, it's like, I guess because I take care of myself for the most part, it's like I don't need that as much as I want the emotional support. So like granted, like if you're in a situation where, and I think this might be it for some people, like where it's like their partner supports them like fully, right? And like you can't deny that at baseline human beings need like at the bottom like roof over their heads, like financial stability, like you need all of that like to be able to live a functional life. So I think some people like are dependent on their partners for that and like get stuck because of that, you know? And so for me, because for the most part I've been able to take care of myself, like I find that I don't seek that as much as I would seek emotional support. It's really interesting because I just read an article yesterday that was talking about how like therapy doesn't help if you don't have baseline like foundational things to live, right? So like money, like roof over your head, food, shelter, like all that stuff. So I think it is important, the nuance to like explain that like I was in a place where I can like take care of myself, and because of that what I was seeking after that is emotional support, right? And so I think that's what was like, so circling back to like what you're saying, like that's what I feel like was kind of missing in my past relationships. And also this like strange, like I've always wanted somebody who like fully supported my dreams, you know? I think that's like a really big factor for me since most of my life is like in the pursuit of a dream. And so like when I don't feel that from my partner, I feel like a big part of the relationship is missing, or like something's missing for me. But I think this differs like for every person. Yeah,
Everybody's needs are different.
Yeah. And I feel like that's where it's like so important to like know yourself too, like and I'm not saying like you have to be single to know yourself. I think when you're single it's more quiet so that you understand what you need, but I think there's also validity in finding out who you are with another person. You know, so there's nothing wrong with like being in a relationship and discovering where you are, because I feel like people demonize it now. It's like, oh, you should be single for forever. I was like, I do think you get valuable information. You learn way faster when you're in like a relationship, because that shit comes up quick. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Let me know if you want to answer it.
Yeah.
So, becoming aware of your needs and stuff, I feel like these are things that you already knew that you needed while you were in your previous relationships. Because these were things that you would kind of share stories about or vent about, or like whatever you would have arguments about. Like, these were the themes that came up. So I feel like you were already aware of what you were needing. So it's not like you had to be single to realize these things. Like, you knew that you needed a partner who supported your dreams and stuff like that. And because you knew what you needed, did it support you, or did it play a role at all in terms of stepping into this new relationship? And I ask because you got into a new relationship fairly quicker than I thought you would. And I wonder if that's because like you already knew Kato, and there was already a pattern of him supporting your dreams. Yeah. And also being like an emotional support for you for a long time. Like, you guys have been best friends for a long time. Yeah. And I wonder, like, did this transition happen? Time is a construct, and I'm totally like putting a label on it. Yeah. But I mean, come on, you haven't dated for only a few months, and now you're doing a workshop together. Like, who does that? But it's like, that's just an outside point of view. But it's like, do you think that you being friends for such a long time and having your awareness plus knowing that Kato has already supported you in the past has helped you kind of like, I don't want to say move faster, but like you maybe move faster?
Yeah, no, that's 100% it. Like, I think, I actually thought about this the other day. It did not occur to me when we created this workshop and we were like, what do you want to share? Like, you know, building a lasting relationship, all that, put it out, and like literally zero doubts about like what we're doing. And then in bed like 2 nights ago, I was like, does this look fucking weird? Like, to people? Like, I was like,
for context, how long have you been dating?
Well, we've been dating since February. So that's like what,
5
like
months.
5 months basically. And then I was like, oh shit, this does look kind of weird. But then what was interesting was me sitting there and like having zero doubts about what we're about to walk into. So I think like it's really interesting that you said time is a construct, because I think it is, in a sense that like if you've been, and this is like what I love about the relationship is we've been around each other for a long time. Like, you can say like, yeah, we've been officially dating for like the last like 5 months, but like we've been there emotionally supporting each other's dreams since like 2016. So it's that, I think that's like the misconception that people like have, right? Is like, oh, like it's like how long you've been dating, but it's like, I think it's just how long you've been in a friendship, in a relationship with each other. You know, like, yeah, like think about this, like me and you just only started really working together, right? But if you think about our relationship and our friendship, it's gone past, like, it's been since 2019. Yeah. Like, even though, like, it's official that we're, like, working together more recently, right?
Like, how long has the connection been?
Yeah, there? Like, how long...
like, the depth of the connection.
Yeah, and you have to think about, like, how long have we, like, it is beyond time, right? It's about, like, how have you been there for each other despite that, right? Like, think about, like, when I think about Tuesday's Surface, it's like, okay, so we've only known each other for what? 3 months? 3 months? Like, 3-4 months?
We're in love.
Yeah, I feel a deep connection. Like, I don't think we're in a honeymoon phase. Like, I actually think, like, this is a friendship
forever.
will, like, be for a very long time, you know? Yeah. And I think that just comes down to, like, the quality of the time spent, like, with each other. Right, and so I think I went off topic, but like
no, I think no, it's fun. I mean, is this new in the podcast?
You should count how many threads you like follow. But yeah, so I do think it matters that we've been friends for a very long time. Like when I was making the decision to like essentially for this relationship to evolve in a different way, to like move from friendship to more of like a romantic relationship, like. I literally straight up told him, like, yo, I don't have any doubts about how you're going to support me. I just want to know that, like, we're cool with that. That's literally it. Like, that's literally the last, like, thing, right? Because everything else, and that was like a cherry on top because we already had such a solid foundation. And so like I think it was easier to jump in because he was aware of what he needed. I was aware of what I needed. Like I knew why I was leaving a relationship, and so ultimately like all of that served us to like make a decision faster, right? And I think as you get older, it is like quicker in a sense because you know what you're looking for and you know what you're just not down for anymore. Yeah, but I do think it still takes time if you are meeting someone new versus like dating a friend that you've been around with for a while. So like I can't give like I'm always very clear like how our relationship like manifested because it's not relevant for everyone. Not everyone had a best friend that they had for 6 years and all of a sudden decided like they have googly eyes for them. You know, like that's not. Dude, I freaking said that straight up to her. I was like, no, hell no. Hell no. And then that's why it took like so many months to transition in. Like I didn't even feel comfortable saying like, oh, we've been dating for the last 5 months because I only just like finally it settled in for me like last month because that's how long it took to get out of like the friend zone.
And now you're doing a workshop together.
And now we're doing a workshop together.
Straight people, man. They take what is 2022 minus 2016? How long have you known each other? 6 years.
We've known each other 8, but we actually really like got to know each other 6 years ago.
You know, this is one of those classic situations where it's like, man, the love of your life could already be in your life and you just gotta open your eyes. But at the same time, like, I mean, come on, watch that video with you two. It wasn't in Vietnam or something where you're riding the motorcycle together. It's come on, dude. Look at the fucking video. It's like, are we surprised that you guys have that? Are you fucking dumb? Like, open your eyes. Hello. Like, you put a nice watch. That video is gonna be in like a proposal video, like a wedding video, and you guys weren't even dating then, but we all knew, and you just put a nice background music over it. And it's just like you guys have been meant to be the entire time. However, straight people are funny because they take forever trying to like do this like, but we're friends, but like, oh, could we actually be official? And then play around and like be best friends for 6 years, and then once you fall in love, it's like, oh, let's do a workshop. But then here comes lesbians who are like, you meet and lock eyes, and it's like, oh, you're the one. Yeah. I have a friend who literally U-hauled within like the second date and moved in together.
Wow.
Like that's how
That's
lesbians
great.
be, just moving. We don't fuck around with love. But however, I will say this. I want to honor this and say that like, yes, you guys may have been friends for however long and been the best support for one another and growing your relationship and your connection at the same time. And we can say that like, oh yeah, everybody saw it coming. Like I don't know if anybody was actually surprised to hear that. I was shocked because you just told Megan first before me.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that.
Finish her. But even so, like I think that you both needed time to grow as individuals, and maybe you just really needed to experience your previous partners as well, because but like just because you were in each other's lives doesn't mean that you were ready to be together.
Yes.
I feel like we should release this today. So you promote this is gonna come out in like later.
No,
but yeah, that is something that I want to honor, because like as much as we can say like y'all known each other for 6 years and you didn't know that you were supposed to be together, it's like maybe you just who knows if it wouldn't have worked out the way that it did. I think if you were to if you were to have gotten together younger.
No, we would have burned you would have
hated each other.
Yeah. No, we talked about this. Like we were just like, we could have seen each other at UCI. Like we were in vicinity of each other. We're in like separate like pre-health fraternities that were essentially in the same circles. Like I knew his friends like back then. Like obviously it didn't happen when we hung out because like he introduced me to my ex, and so there's also that like complexity, right? Like it could have happened any time between like also like last year and now, but I think it like this is why like I think timing, it's like we're so, I think as a society we're just like, oh, we gotta get fucking married, find the one like by like a certain time. It's just like, dude, no. like there's no timeline for like this kind of stuff. Like I didn't go out after my last relationship and be like, oh, I'm gonna find the fucking one, like, and be with somebody in the next year. Nobody goes out and does that. And so it's just like kind of getting rid of that like weird expectation that you're supposed to be with someone by a certain time, but like really respecting your own journey.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like you need more time to just like be with yourself, like to move through stages of life. Like I think any sooner than this, and we wouldn't have been prepared. Because we're talking like now being in RBTL, learning all the freaking skills, like the number of clearing conversations and like conversations we had to have at the beginning, like because there was like friction between us, or like, you know, when we're thinking about like how, you know, he was like so ready but I was not, right? Like how do you move through that, right? And how do you respect each other's processes? And so that just requires like a very like conscious level of communication to do that neither of us had even a year ago. Yeah, and so like we only are here because we took our own time in our own journeys, and even in the relationship we're still in our own journeys. Like I think we mix up this idea of like you have to, once you're like with somebody, you're like with them and like all this stuff, and it's like no, you're still an I think this is actually something significant that both of us are trying to commit to, which is like we are independent people. And like it's interdependence, not codependence, right? And like both of us have codependence tendencies too. So like we have had to like walk through that together and like move towards like interdependence and not depending on each other on things. So like I would get triggered when like he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed now, and I'm just like, I want to talk to you, but like he's like tired, and it's like, you know, it's small things like that don't seem like a lot, but like it's very similar to like you gotta keep your promises every single day to move towards that, right? So like I have to do the work of like not taking that personally, right, when he needs to take care of himself, and that it's not that he doesn't want to talk to me, but like he really has to like uphold his boundaries in order to teach himself to be not dependent on this, and like then I have to do my own work to not like take that personally, so that I can like not be codependent. And like how the fuck do you maneuver that? Yeah, through communication. So like there's that.
Also, we can just lean into the trust that there is absolutely no way that there will ever be a time where Kato doesn't want to talk to you. So if he can't talk to you anymore, he must really actually be tired.
Yeah.
It's not because he doesn't want to talk to you.
No, 100%. Yeah. So like it's just like, how do you find trust in like people like that? And that gets built over time. You know, like if I met Kato yesterday, that we would not be doing a workshop. Yeah. Sure as hell would not be doing a workshop if like I didn't have that level of trust with him. Because like to even embark on a project like this, you're talking about two people who like, even as confident as we are, like it's extremely vulnerable to be like, and now we will have this discussion in front of everyone. Like, like that's fun. Yeah. And like also like the fear of like being seen by people, I think it's also very real. Like it's very scary to do that, and at the same time like we have never been in a better place to do that. So like it's like, okay, like that's fine. You know, we just want to be able to like be a source of something of like safety and like inspiration and care for people that like, you know, you said it earlier, like sometimes you don't have, because you're so used to the repetition and the pattern, and the only way to break that is to see like what else is out there. You know, like, and I think we talked about this before.
I am in love with our friendship.
Me too.
And I think that you have to be
looking at your friendships as ways of like helping you discern like what you're looking for like in a partner. Yeah,
I would date the shit out of my friends. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that like I talked about with Gloria, then I'll talk to you about it too, is like, this is a really good one and you want to write it down. This is a really good one. This is quotable. Write it down. Does it feel right because it's actually right, or does it feel right because it's following a pattern that we're used to? Is it following a cycle? Is it because we're conditioned to think this way? Like, I can totally say that a super toxic, unhealthy relationship it feels right because it's familiar. Right, because it's familiar versus it's actually right. One thing that came up for me when you were talking about like timing and preparation and how like you and Kato wouldn't have been able to date the way that you are now even just a year ago. Man, you can really change and evolve and transform so much even within 1 year. And you know what? Like, even if Kato felt ready when he confessed his love to you, like, even then, at that moment, even though he's the one who confessed his love to you and it may seem like he was ready for it, who's to say that he actually was ready? Like, I think, like, when it comes to time and preparation and leaning into the trust of, man, like, everything happens at its perfect timing, it's like, I think that we tend to rush through certain processes and think that we're ready or feel that we're ready, but it doesn't actually mean that we're ready. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you're truly ready is when you're beyond being ready. Like, you're like, you've mastered it at that point. It like is you're like natural at it at that point, because when you feel ready to do something, there's so much emotion and energy connected to it. There's like so much hype for it that it's like, I'm ready. And then now I gotta be perfect, blah, 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 blah. Versus like surpassing the readiness and just kind of be like, this is who I am every single fucking day. And so like the way that like Kato may be able to show up for you, like he may have been ready then. But now I think that this might, I don't know if this makes sense, but like he's at his most calm state to support you, because that's just like his literal masterful natural self now, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. Like, I think that makes sense.
Also, like, if I were to think about it, like, when we keep talking about the level of communication between you two, even if he had confessed his love to you before RBTL ever came along, like before we met Norman,
right,
he was still a very communicative guy, and so are you. And so you two could have dated then. Like, he could.
I was in a relationship.
Say he's out the window. Say you have broken up. But like, Kato could have confessed his love to you then and just like pursue this thing. But I would have thought like, oh yeah, you two were like fine communicators. Like, you could too, would have been fine then too. But then now, like, even a few years later, and then even a year of RBTL later, it's just like, oh, like, just because you think you're ready doesn't mean that you're actually ready. And that once you've mastered a certain level of skill, and when you're natural at it, that's when you're ready. Yeah. Am I making sense?
Yeah. I think what I heard from, like, I love that you're checking. I think what I heard from you is that, like, there's, like, I don't want to say, like, different levels of, like, readiness, but I think
there's levels to this shit.
Yeah. There's, like, levels of mastery, I think, is what we're saying, right? Like, and we were at baseline, like, very, like, good already, and then we're just now at a place where it's like it's just normal, like, for us. And I guess the impact of that on, like, whether or not you would chase something or like take a leap on something, I think it does affect, like, your confidence level, right? And I think maybe it's not like readiness, but like confidence in being able to finally, like, make a move. You know, so I think that's where, like, Kato's at. But I think the reason why we are in the place that we are now is because of the last 5 months being in each other intentionally, like, working through all these things has made us more, like, confident. And that's why the level of mastery is, like, out the fucking roof now, like, because it's like, but that's because he took a chance, and then I decided to take a chance, right? Then we came together, and then that's like us just being in each other's presence has made it, like, exponential in terms of, like, the growth.
This makes me think about, like, when we enter relationships, or when I enter a relationship next, it's like people always talk about growing together and building together and, like, whatever together. And it makes me wonder, like, how much of something am I willing to build with somebody versus, like, already being there and meeting each other at that level. And like, in the past, I used to be like, I have no problem, like, with me maybe knowing more about communication or know more about credit scores than my partner. But then, like, now I'm at a point where it's like, I have no bandwidth and no energy to teach the other person nothing. Like, I hope that I get to be with somebody, or I hope that whatever my next relationship looks like, that the person is kind of, like, already, we're, like, meeting each other at like a similar level of something. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, and I'm not saying that I'm the master of something, but whatever is all the things that are important to me, I hope that I'm able to find a partner who is like, who it's important to them too, and they've worked on it on their own too, so that I don't have to drag them along and convince them why it's important and show them why it's important and like show them what's possible, because once we establish these things, like I hope I meet somebody who's like already there, because like. And maybe it's that you two are able to have these conversations and hold a workshop and do stuff like this because you have the bandwidth, because you're not spending all your energy trying to get the homie to talk.
What are you saying?
What happened last year?
Yes.
Wow, what's that like?
Yes.
What if it was easy?
Fuck, dude, I can't breathe. Dude, I'm serious. Like, no, 100%. You like hit it on the mark. Like, I think this is what I mean when I say like when we're older, right? You're very clear on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just like that has to be the baseline. Like, it's like we need to see people for where they are right now, not like what we want them to be or what we hope them to be.
Yeah,
you know, because
exactly.
I think that's disrespect.
Say that again.
Like,
say it again.
we have to see people like where they are, who they are now, not what we hope them to be, or ideally who they become, right?
Yeah.
Like, because like that's just unfair for you to be slack. Okay, that's like unfair for you to expect that, first of all, from another person, right? That's like an immense amount of pressure that we're putting on another person to like become somebody that we're looking for. So we're not taking responsibility of what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh well, like I hope, or like maybe I can change them. And I think that's like where I think that's like the what's it called, the point where like there's like two paths and you choose one, right? Like that's why I think we had this conversation recently too, like talking about like when I decided to choose to leave my last relationship, it was a choice to see the reality of where we are now, to recognize like, hey, like it's gonna take a while, and to look at it and be like, am I willing to be there for this person throughout this journey? And I made the choice that I was not. And like that like choice in and of itself is really scary, because like what does that mean? What stories will come up when you decide like, oh, I cannot be there for a person for this part of their journey. Oh shit, I'm a bad partner. Oh shit, like this and that. And like I was like, no, I don't want this person to also be with me, and for me to feel resentment in this entire journey towards them, like to get there. They don't deserve that either. They deserve me supporting them fully in that journey, and I knew I was not capable of that amongst all other things that I was doing, and I was like, I can't, like, you know. And that's a scary decision after you've been with somebody for like 4+ years and you've been through so much. And I think that's where things get really scary, because people stay because it's like, I've been here for forevermore. And it's just like, man, like in a relationship, you're always taking a chance. You're never guaranteed like a forever situation, but like you have to like work on it every single day. And I was not able to like do that for the other person. So
Yeah. One time I was talking to a friend for support on something that I was going through in the relationship, and it was like getting harder and harder, and it felt like we were constantly kind of like moving in this, like I was moving at a faster pace in terms of like whatever development we were going through at the time, like personal or professional or whatever it may be, the self-awareness, emotional intelligence, like all of that stuff. Like it just kept feeling like, whatever, even if it's communication, like any skill, any attribute that will contribute to the wellness of your relationship, like it just kept feeling like I was moving at a faster pace and at a higher level than my partner was. And I was just like really frustrated by it. And I'm like, man, like no matter, I know that she's trying, but it's just not, she is trying. And that's why there's no blame, there's no finger pointing because she was trying. And it just constantly felt like this uneven, unbalanced relationship where I kept having to wait or pull or push to try to get her to like where I am, and it became exhausting. And I was like looking for every bit of hope to keep going. And my friend asked me like, but Jiggy, what if this is her best? Like, it's not that she's not trying. She's also, what if this is her trying her best? Like, this is her best. You're frustrated right now, and you feel as though there's more room to grow and things like that. There's more that can be done. But what if this right now is her best? Then what? Because I could be over here like, oh, I'm waiting around for her to like see that once she tries her best, like once she applies herself, she's going to like grow exponentially, blah blah blah. But it turns out like that is her best. And now talking about unfair expectations, it's like that is an unfair expectation. That's unfair for the both of us. And that's one of the most important like questions that was asked to me to reflect on, because it's like, I don't know who's listening right now, and I don't know what you're going through, but if you're going through like relationship crisis or something and you're working on towards something, it's like, is the other person really doing their best? And if so, then what? Now what? And that's the point where I think that, man, I used to like, whenever I came to a point of breaking up with somebody, I would always ask like, is this a journey that we're supposed to go on together, or is this a journey that they're supposed to go on their own? And nowadays I'm starting to realize like, man, whenever I have to ask that question, it's probably that they have to go on their own. And because I'm never responsible for anybody, and I should never put an expectation on somebody. So
yeah, I think we are all responsible, like you said at the end, like we are all responsible for like our own growth and our own like taking care of ourselves. And also like leaning in like when we need support, right? Like it's not like a binary thing, but like I think there is a lot of ownership involved in like realizing like what's the reality of our current state right now, and like actively, it's kind of like getting updates like every single time, like what's the reality right now, and you have to make an active choice. I think what a lot of us fall into is that like we're automated in like, yeah, keep going until you like get to a point where you don't even recognize like what the you're in, right? And then for other people, it's just like we don't want to make a choice, right? And so we stay in this like gray area, like, maybe I'll keep going, maybe like that doesn't serve neither of us either. And that's not saying you will always have clarity, but it is important to like have that open conversation. Right? And like know that like, hey, like at least it's top of mind for another person. That's still meaningful, you know? So yeah, I think it's like really complex, and there's a lot of like, I think why we get stuck in relationship issues is like we also like sometimes don't have the time to adequately intentionally like build towards that. Like I know for me, like a big reason why like my last relationship didn't work out was like I own the fact that like I was trying to build something. Like I was trying to build my business at the same time, build this relationship, and like that is really like a lot
and
to
technically
handle.
build a house.
And physically build a house, yes, and like renovate. And so like when you think about like man, when I look back at that, I'm just like, dude, we're going through way too much. And like, are you checking yourself in terms of like how much you're taking on and being honest about the bandwidth you also have for the relationship? Because I've had that conversation with Kato too. I'm just like, yo, like I'm building RBTL, you know this, you're in it, you get it, like, and I want you to know that I'm working towards like making more time for us, but like right now I'm stuck, like I'm in this thing, and like I hope you can like hold that. Because if you can't, then like, you know, we gotta work through that. Yeah, but it's just like how many of us are actually realistic about where we are, and how many of us are actually fucking then talking about it. That shit's scary. You don't, nobody wants to hear like I'm stuck in this thing and like I don't got time. Right? But like you have phases in life like that.
Yeah, I think one of the scariest things about relationships is that people are ever growing.
Yes, evolving all the time.
It's like the risk of growing in separate directions and like separate desires in life. And suddenly like it's at a point where you can't effectively support one another. And as much as like we can visualize the future and like knowing what we want right now, it's not guaranteed. And I think that's scary.
Dude, 100%.
Damn, I had a thought and it floated away like a butterfly. Your butterfly's landing on me now. Ta-da! It was about when you were talking about... What are these noises coming out of your laptop?
Oh, it's my laptop. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You know when that Slack notification came on, somebody was triggered. People
Was
come to
someone
this. People come to this
the
podcast for
chill.
peace, and now they hear that Slack notification.
They're like,
going
oh,
off,
shit.
And now they're triggered, and now they probably have anxiety wanchy.
Oh. Shout out security.
It was something about ease. You know what? I'll come back to it. Can I express a thought that I'm going through right now?
Yeah, no, I was gonna swing it back to you, because I was like, I'm good.
Something that, as we were talking about like needs and stuff, and being aware of needs and like seeking relationships accordingly to our needs.
Yeah.
Something I just realized about my needs.
Yeah.
In the past, I thought what I needed was for somebody. This is gonna sound so weird, but I thought what I needed was like somebody to just like have me chase them. And then also maybe make me feel kind of abandoned. Like that was my cycle then. And that came from like me feeling a little abandoned from my mom, or like not her being emotionally available for me. And so like the cycle that I went through was like dating women who were like that. Then it was like toxic relationships. They lied to me, they lied to my face, they lied to me, they cheated on me, like all of this stuff, gaslighted me, like made me feel like I was being clingy, that I was needy, but that was only because they literally were never there for me. But at the same time, like that's what I was attracted to. That's what I wanted. And so that's the cycle that I went through.
Yeah.
And then I was like single, and there was this 1 year where I was like, you know what, this is the year that I'm gonna stay single, and I'm gonna dedicate my New Year's resolution was to be single, to go through this like self-awareness journey. And I said that the one relationship that I'm gonna work on is with my mom. And then granted, that was like the year that my mom was diagnosed with cancer. But after that, I realized like, okay, maybe what I need is the complete opposite. And maybe what I need is like, basically I used to want women who would like have me feeling abandoned. And now I'm over here like, no, that's not what I need. What I need is somebody who like makes me feel taken care of, and like affirms me all the time, and tells me that they love me all the time. And like when it comes to partners, I love like touch, and like touch me all the time, and like cuddle me and hug me all the time. Like the complete fucking opposite.
The pendulum.
Yeah. So now it's from abandonment to now like codependency completely. You know how I go always hard, like one thing or the other. Like, there's no middle. There's just like, it's either like abandon me or love me, like, need me. Like abandon me or never leave me, never let me go. Like hold on to me real tight. There's like no middle. And so that's what I'm just realizing now. Is like, man, I went to this like, I recognized the cycle.
Yeah.
I said that's not what I need. I need the complete opposite. Then I went through this cycle of complete codependency, where the other person needs me, no matter how independent they may seem. This is the trick, y'all. When I first meet them, they seem so independent and so strong. But then they meet me. And I'm somebody who's like always going out of my way to like, you don't even have to ask me for help. I think for you what you need help with. And then I go above and beyond to help you. And I think there's a difference between helping somebody and saving somebody. Woo! And I'm a savior. I'm Jesus. I'm the gay Jesus. But yeah, like it's not in my narrative. In my narrative, if it was like, well, they're my partner, of course I want to support them. I want to help them. My definition of support is like above and beyond support. I'm like,
it's like A++, like
it's the cheerleader, the mascot, the manager. I am both and all these things.
Jack of all
but
trades.
Now I am the jack of all. I'm the shit. But like the thing is that it goes beyond support and beyond help. I extend myself so much, and I used to have this narrative where it was like, well, yeah, of course, because I believe in the partner, I believe in their dreams, I believe in their goals, I believe they can do it. Therefore, as a partner, it's my responsibility to be there for them. But it's not my responsibility to like hold their hands, come up with all these ideas for them, like and save them. That's not my job. a relationship at the end of the day, like, I know people say that, like, relationships are work, but why? Why do we have that narrative? Just because it's difficult for everybody else, that means that, like, it has to be hard for everybody. Just because, like, hustle and grind is the way, that has to be the narrative for everybody. Like, just because all people are obsessed with capitalism and working hard, that has to be the narrative for everybody. No, it doesn't. So when people say, like, relationships are hard, like, there are times when it's hard. There are times when it's difficult. But what if it was easy? People are like, oh, there's lack of communication in relationships. What if you took RBTL? What if you went to Steph and Kato's workshop? What if people are able to communicate about their sexual desires in a relationship?
That's ownership.
Instead of faking it. Do you know the rate of how many straight people?
I've heard about this.
Straight women. The rate they fake it.
That, like, makes
It's
sense.
extremely high. It's like
It is.
80% or something.
I don't know the number, but I know it's really high.
It's like very high.
Yeah. It's like scarily, like, high.
But did you see the rate for lesbians? I took a class on this in college. That's how I know, like, it's actually really high. But
yeah, I think this might be related to what you were talking about earlier in terms of, like, ease, right? Yeah, it doesn't have to be hard. I think when we say work, it's like taking action, right? Taking ownership, like, work on your communication, like, that's where the work is. But I think other than that, like, a relationship is it's supposed to bring you more ease. Like, it's not supposed to make your life harder. I think from what I heard you saying, like, it sounds like part of the work you're doing is, like, almost like setting boundaries on how much you're available to give, like, to somebody else, because you're such a big, like, giver, you know, in your soul.
I mean, we talked to a friend the other day, and I said, like, the biggest reflections that I had to go through with my previous relationship was, like, man, how much of my time and energy is used upon working on this relationship versus being in love. I just want to be. I'm a Libra. I just want to be in love. I'm not asking for much. You know? Like, I know that not all relationships can always be like la-da-da, like laying in a picnic blanket at the park, sun shining, bunnies and deers around you, and you just, like, lay on somebody's lap with them feeding you grapes. I know that like, it's not every day can be like that, but what if, to be honest, like, my last relationship and even the one previous, to be honest, like, aside from all the bullshit, it was perfect. It was just that it was all the bullshit. But then now, yes, talking about my consciousness now, my awareness now, I made a joke the other day. I thought it was pretty funny. That, like, when my friends are like, here I am telling everybody, like, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. I'm realizing that, like, this is what I need now. I need a woman who's, like, independent, got her own shit going on. Like, they don't need my help. And, well, not that they don't need my help, because I'm always going to help. But, like, they don't need me to come up with ideas for them or save them or do shit for them. Like, they got their own shit going on. They know what they want. And you know what? They keep their word. They finish what they started. Like, da-da-da-da-da. And then a friend would be like, oh, here's somebody that I know. I'm like, she's too perfect. And I'm like, where am I going to fit here? Like, in which areas can I save her? Like, which areas can I help her? She doesn't look like somebody who needs saving. So now it's like, well, then why would she need me then? Like, why would she date me? Like, why would she want to be with me? It doesn't look like she needs me. That's a funny joke, huh?
It was.
But then I think it was you or somebody else was like, yeah, Jiggy, because, like, a partnership, you can just be there to be a partner, not a savior. Like, that's what a partnership is supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to save them. You're supposed to just, maybe what they could get from this relationship or time with you is just, like, liberation and freedom from all of their hard work they're putting in every single day, because they know what they want and they get after it. And they're completely in alignment with what they want, and they actually execute, and doesn't need me to remind them to execute. I want to make it clear that I'm not talking shit about my exes.
Yeah, I think
I'm just sharing my own experience of what I've done in the relationships.
Yeah, I think you've been very clear. Like, there was no blaming or anything at all.
I also want to make it clear, they never asked for my help. I did all the things because of my own willingness.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just hate when somebody has so much potential and I just see them, like, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
That really bothers me. But again, it's not my responsibility and it's not my job.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about what you just said right now, and I was like, maybe that's why it's foreign. It's the foreign versus feeling right, like feeling like it's familiar.
It's very new. You know what?
Like that's the person saying like, hey, look at this person with all these things that you said you're looking for, and then you're just like, doesn't feel familiar.
Dude, I met the chick on Tuesday.
There you go.
I was like, honestly, here's my honestly, I love my ideal woman. Yeah, she would like have her own business or like. I honestly I honestly do love career-driven women. I do. Mm-hmm. Like as long as it's not to a toxic level where they can't put their laptop away when we're on vacation or something. Like I love drive in general. Like I think I love drive. I love ambition. Like, woo, I love just like thinking about it. And you know that's like what really attracted me to my previous partner. Yeah. Like. I love consistency. One of the things that like I used to like call my friends up about my last partner, like when I first met them and like when I first started dating them, I would call up my friends and be like, guys, like she wakes up on the first alarm at 5 a.m. Like that.
Yo, that's legit.
That attracted the shit out of me. But yeah, like I do love ambitious women and driven women and things like that. But like when I met the chick, if it bothers you when I call women chicks, please let me know. When I met this woman on Tuesday, to be honest, I was like, man, she was like truly, I'm sure like I need to get to know her better to like really have a fair judgment, but like she, from the outside perspective, she really was everything that I would want in a partner. Mm-hmm. But not gonna lie, I felt intimidated. Like my perfect woman would be like somebody who does have their own vision, drive, own vision, own dreams, got multiple things going on. Like I do love a woman who has multiple things, like whether it's founding something and a nonprofit or like whatever it is, like multiple projects. Like you know the chick that I've been telling you about from college. Yes. Like she has multiple shit going on because she's using all of her potential. But even her, I'm like, we could never work out. You have to. You're just because I'm intimidated. Yeah. And that says more about me than them. Right. But it's like, what do I have to do? What do I have to work on myself in order to like not be how could I be intimidated by something that I truly want? Mm-hmm. That why am I intimidated by it? Is it being intimidated, or is it actually that like, am I intimidated by the possible thought that maybe I'm looking at my own power? Like I'm attracted to all these ambitious women. I'm an ambitious woman. Woman, like they're powerful. I'm powerful. Am I intimidated by like looking at a mirror of myself? Like that's actually how other people see me. And is that why people always talk about my confidence? Am I intimidated by my own power? I don't know. But it's also like the unfamiliarity of like somebody not needing me. That's something that I'm also intimidated by, because then it's like, okay, then how else will you love me?
Yeah, how else will
like what else do I have to do to feel loved?
And I think that's part of the narrative, right? Is that you feel like you have to do something to gain that.
Which my exes have never done or said. Like they never ever. I don't have to do anything. It's me. It's not them. It's me. A choice. Yeah, it's me. Like they. I don't have to do. I can exist. I can breathe. I can be sleeping, and they would still love me. It's me who's like, I want to serve because like I love to help people. Blah.
Yeah. I think it's also human nature to want to be able to, like, part of love, I feel like, in human nature is to want to give parts of yourself. That's the way that we love, too, right? It's, like, through acts of service, right? Through sharing, through giving.
Support.
And, like, that's part of, like, your biggest, like, love language, essentially, is to, like, support another person. And so if that's not there, that feels like there's something missing for you too. Right? Like I don't think it makes you like less than like to like want to give to somebody. I think that's very natural for us to do. Like when we care about somebody, we want to give them parts of ourselves.
And a very real fear that I've been having lately is like, okay, the girls, like Tuesday service and things like that. Like, I love the friendship that we have going on right now, and I love the freedom to just do whatever I want, go hang out with whoever I want, whenever I want, stay out as long as I want, if I want to. And I'm not saying that, like, in previous relationships I wasn't able to do that, but I always felt obligated to go back at a certain time, or felt obligated to just the obligation period. And so now, like, I'm just thinking lately, I'm like, man, would I be hanging out with you guys as much as I have been if I was in a relationship right now? I honestly don't even know how I would have the bandwidth to hang out with a group of women and my girlfriend at the same time right now in this, where I'm at right now in life. And that's like a clear sign that I shouldn't be with anybody right now. But that's something that I think about. It's just like, I mean, granted, like, maybe it helps with you and Kato that he lives in NorCal. But will things change when he comes back?
Oh.
Dun dun dun.
Tune in for the next 2 years to find out. I do think that makes it significant. But we actually talked about that. We were just like, we absolutely love where we're at. Like, a lot of people are just like, oh, I'm scared of like long distance. I'm just like, I'm not saying it's not hard. Like, I think it's like nice when like we're in the same area. But he has his own shit going on. Like, he's going to his dance classes and like things like that. And I'm like building my thing still, you know? And like, I love spending time with Tuesday service. And I also know that like, if he was around, it would be more challenging. Like, I think I would still make the time to like see you all, but like that's a conscious choice, because in the spectrum of like life as a whole, I realize like I want to put less time in work actually, so that I can cultivate what I feel like my life is about, which is like investing in these relationships. Like, I care about the relationships that I have in my life because I know that is what's going to get me to the end, like where I want to be. Like, I can spend 2 hours being spent figuring out more shit versus 2 hours getting inspired by your like, come on, like that is an easy choice, like for me, like, but that doesn't happen with everyone. It's only with this specific group that I feel that way, you know. It's only with specific people that I'm willing, like, all right, because I know time is limited. I know time is the biggest resource that we have. And the reason why I choose to do that is because I know when I go in there, when I spend time with you all, it's only gonna rejuvenate me in ways that I cannot even explain, that I don't even know. And that is like valuable. But a lot of people, like, they see it as just like, oh, I got 2 more hours to like work on work, which is how I used to think of it. And now I'm just like, no, like, I need support in other ways. That's not just like you helping me with my business. Like, I need support that's like remembering why I'm here, remembering that there's other things beyond just like my work. And like, I think that is super valuable. So like, I've been talking to Kato about how like what I really want is to actually move to a place where work is more automated, where I get more support. Like, what it means is just I need more support, like at work. And like, how come I'm always stuck in like, I gotta do this for my work and then sacrifice the things that I'm going to remember. God forbid, I'm not going to remember the 2 hours I spent on an extra email, okay? But I am going to remember doing the peace sign at Tuesday service and being, like, laughed at for not being able to make content, you know? Like, I'm going to remember that. And that's, like, so much more important. But I think, like, I only see this now because I've been, like, in that trench of, like, doing work to the point where it's, like, what is the fucking use?
Dude, I literally just recently had a conversation with a friend about how they were telling me some things that they were going through in life, and like they were having trouble with the men that she was dating, or making new friends, and like what kind of friends they are, and it's just kind of sounds like it was like a beginning phase of like acquaintances to becoming friends or things like that, and then like and then just things just seem so unbalanced and just out of control, where she just felt burnt out by life basically. And somehow we got to the conversation of like, what is your like ideal future, like what does your desired future look like? and she didn't understand what I was talking about. Like, she didn't understand what I meant, and I was like your future, like, what kind of life do you want in the future? Like, what are you working towards? You do all this work, like, what are you working towards? Like, you want family, like, what kind of, what does that look like? What does your marriage look like? What does your partnership look like? What does your, like, what are the things that you're going to teach your kids? Like, what are these things look like? What does your house look like? What does your ideal work-life balance look like? All of these things, and she had no idea. And I was like, do you not have an idea because you really don't know, or because you just never gave it time of thought? To let her know that it's not because she's lacking anything in life. It's just that she's just never taken the time to do it. So it turns out that it's because she never took the time to think about it. And then I was like, well, I realized that, like, lack of vision and desire for a future makes it harder to set boundaries now, to have standards now. Because, like, you can't, if you don't have a clear future, a clear idea of the future that you want, how do you know what standards to set and what boundaries to set when it comes to the guys that you go on dates with? Then you'll just date anybody because you don't have the standards. You don't have boundaries. You're just going to date anybody. If you don't know what kind of family lifestyle you want, and what kind of, like, partner you want, and what kind of values you want to teach your children, you're just going to date anybody who has no values and no integrity. Because you don't know what you want to teach your children. What if they have values that are completely against your own? What are you going to teach your children? Therefore, like, if it lacks boundaries and standards, it's going to be anything. Even in friend groups. What kind of friends do you want? What kind of standards do you have for your friends? Otherwise, you're going to make... Anybody can become friends. Anybody can be buddies. But, like, do you want friends that you want a lasting relationship and deep connections with, where you have friends who you can vent to and share your most deepest vulnerabilities with, but at the same time, randomly go out to WeHo? Like, do you want that? Or do you just want chat buddies? And you chat with them when they log on. Like, and you don't know if they're going to support you in the future because you didn't visualize them in the future. And, like, when it comes to work, it's like, oh, so she realized that. This is what reminded me. She realized that she never took the time to think about the future of her life because she was so focused on work for the past 10 years.
That hit me really hard. And yes, that was me at a certain point. I feel for her. Yeah.
So
it's scary.
So it is, like, I think we all go through that thanks to capitalism, but we think that work is the most important thing. I don't know how we ended up talking about work, but we always go there. But, like, work is important, like, especially if it's tied to your purpose and passion. Like, it's how we may feel purpose in life. Like, sure, but it's a part of life. It's not all of life. And I think I've said this before, that, like, truly when my dad passed away, what I've realized is the most important lasting thing that will leave an impact in your life is your relationships. Like, at my dad's funeral, like, he had friends from, like, elementary school coming. Like, people who may have just, like, barely known him but remember him because of this one interaction that they had. Like, it's about... Ain't nobody from, like, you can bust your ass all you want to, but is the CEO of your company gonna show up to your funeral? You know, like, I know it's what's important right now. I'm not saying that it's not important, but it's a part of life, but it's not all of life. It doesn't have to be work in terms of, like, profession. Like, even we just talked about relationship is also work. It's like, relationship is also part of life, but it's not all of life. Like, romantic relationship.
Yes.
Like, the work that you put in, like, how much work are you... People always talk about, like, how much work are you willing to put into relationships? It's like, but why does it always have to be willingness, and why does it always have to be work that's put into relationship? Why can't it be just love? And that's it.
Just be.
Yeah, just be.
Yeah. And I think why it's so confusing for people is, like, for a lot of relationships, like, I don't think we're at the awareness sometimes that, like, you can't just be there. I think people feel like they have to give in some way, exchange something, like in order to be in that relationship, to solve something, to help, right? And I think real relationships are the ones where you can show up and it's okay to be emoshi and all the things like while you're there, and like to be in like what you're currently experiencing and not feel like you have to solve something and not feel like you got to give something up in order to be there.
Yeah.
But like most of the times, like I think why it's so hard is because we don't have the communication to like move towards that point. Some people don't know how to say like, you know, not really needing anything, just want to like be here with you guys, or like we're afraid to express like the love and care that we feel for someone, and like that's where it comes down to like communicating and like allowing somebody in, which also requires the vulnerability, right? And that's like so scary. Like that shit's really scary for people who are like more new to that or never have had examples of that in their life. Yeah.
Do you know how like society equates productivity to like value, to like worthiness, to purposefulness? But I think the same goes not just to like professional work but relationships too. Because people like can't fathom a relationships where there's no like constant fighting. Dude, back in like 2015, some dumb come out with this article. It's some like pretty prestigious news article, and she wrote about how the title of it was something ridiculous. It was like if you're not arguing, then you're not in love, or some bullshit like that. And I looked the bitch up, and she was a Penn State alum, and I was like, no, we can't claim this. I don't claim you as a Penn State alum writing this ridiculous ass article. And the article was all about like if you have to argue in order to make a relationship work. Like she was saying like argument as in literally like argument, like along with like volume, the tone, like yell at each other. You have to like yell at each other to
oh, interesting.
Like if he doesn't like yell at you, or like if he doesn't argue with you, he doesn't want you. Like that was like the narrative.
Wow.
And I was like, what the hell? But the thing is that like, you know what, it's how some of society looks at relationships. It's like, I have a friend, my other friend, and I joke about it, but we have a friend who's been in a relationship for the past whatever years, and she's been rather quiet. But in the past, she's always coming in like, you won't believe what this motherfucker did, like blah blah blah. But as of lately, she's like real quiet, and we're like, either something's up or she's really happy. And it's because there's nothing like wrong. Like they don't argue, they communicate. I think some of society might equate like something's always got to be wrong in order for the relationship to be working and for it to be spicy and keep you on your toes. But it's like when nothing's going on, people are like, that's strange. But like, why is it strange that they have a peaceful relationship?
I don't fucking
because
know.
people view productivity and work the same as they do in professional work as they do in relationships. It's like, you gotta constantly put in the work.
Yeah.
It's like, and I've heard like marriage is work too, and I think that marriage and like relationships are different levels of work. And from my understanding, when you work on a marriage, it's truly like at the end of the day working on yourself too, to show up better for the other partner. But I just realized that hustle culture affects relationships too. Like, it's not only about hustle and grind and like your business, but it's also about in relationships.
Yeah, it permeates like every piece of how we function as a whole.
Well, I guess that was the podcast. What have you learned? We didn't even set an intention. We just went for it.
Yeah. No, I think we did. Right? We just got into it. The intention was just to like let it flow and see where we land.
You tell us what the intention is. You tell us what the takeaway is.
I'm deep in thought about all the things that we talked about.
This will prep you up for tonight. You're gonna have a debrief with Kato. What's your one word takeaway? Checkout.
My one word checkout. Yeah, I hope that like people take time to be just intentional about where their relationships are going. Like, not necessarily just like your romantic relationship, but like your friendships as well. And thinking about like, you know, how you want to show up in your relationships, and like what you're really looking for, maybe even having the courage to actually explicitly share that. Yeah.
I think for me, what's coming up right now is like last episode, we talked about the difference between giving up versus releasing. And if you're in a relationship that's rather difficult and you're doing your best and maybe they're doing their best and it's still not working out, it might seem like you have to stay in the relationship to continue the work because otherwise it feels like giving up. But what if you were to look at it from the lens of releasing for the both of you? It must be exhausting for the both of you. And so if there's any fear or hindrance when it comes to releasing this part of your life, and maybe there's fear for the next chapter, would you rather spend the next year like continuing to burn yourself out and be exhausted in something that's just not working out? Or would you actually just like release that and let that go and lean into trust that the freedom of the next chapter will bring you more joy, whatever that might look like? Damn, if you break up because of what I just said, I just want you to know, like, make it very clear to your partner that it's not my fault. You've just come to an enlightenment.
The Energy and Heart podcast is not liable for anything that happens in your relationships after you listen to this specific podcast episode. Thank you very much. See you next time.